Gaurav, you and I have known each other for, over 15 years now. It's been quite the journey in the GRC space, and you've been co-CEO now for just over a year. So in our past, we've talked a lot about the GRC journey, and I know that MetricStream has talked a lot about that journey. Where's that journey now? Where's MetricStream today? What are you focused on? What's changed this last year?
Absolutely, Mike, and thanks for joining this and talking to me here. And I know that in the last year, a lot has changed, and you are one of the persons who know it intimately. I've seen your schedules, your interactions with customers and with the world here. So I would say that things have accelerated. I mean, I talked a little bit in my keynote yesterday about the fact that we've never seen 5-6 things come together at the same time. The pandemic, the trade war conflicts, the war itself, inflation, extreme technology disruption. And that has really changed a lot of things in the market for our customers, for us as a company. If I look at it in the last year, and as you know, I was one of the co-founders of the company, but every few years there's been some shift in the GRC market. But in the last year, with all these changes happening, we have been focused intensively on 3 primary stakeholders, if you will. One is customers, one is employees, and one is our shareholders. All 3 are very important, extremely important. In terms of our customers, what we have done is we have intensified the focus in terms of how we interact, how we engage with them. In the past, as a software company, as a SaaS company, you typically do a good deployment, you run the project well, and then you bake off, essentially. But what we've intensified, given the market conditions, et cetera, as well, is that for us, it's extremely important how customers are adopting the application, and second is how they're getting value from the application. And this is important because customers are also under financial considerations of how they manage their budgets, all of that stuff, and it's extremely important for them to understand that they're getting value from the system, not just something that's shelfware or being just used by a few people in the organization. And with that, organizationally, we've reset certain things in terms of how customers are engaged. We created a customer success organization, deepened it to ensure that they're constantly engaged with providing value. The second thing I would say is that from an employee perspective, it's been a tough year for employees across the world. I mean, people are still grappling with the whole work from home, whether they should work from home, come to office. You're seeing a lot of debate in the market. Employee behavior has changed. And essentially, there are financial pressures on organizations to make sure that they're balancing the growth and profitability. So what we have done with employees overall is that we've tried to make sure that the inspiration continues. It's a large market. Their value and passion around GRC is sustained and increased. And very importantly, they have fun while they're doing work. So we've tried to create a culture of a one-team approach intensively. And that has actually worked in our favor. Employees are coming together with the purpose of serving their customers and the market in general. And last thing, very importantly, capital markets are extremely tight. Okay, so it's very important to understand how our stakeholders and what the expectations are. So one of the big shifts for us has been that we have made a very strong headway towards balanced growth and profitability. So while we are growing, we also wanted to ensure that we are profitable. And that has actually helped a lot in making sure that our stakeholders and our shareholders are we are well capitalized on one front. The other side, we're providing value to our shareholders as well. So that's the 3 big things, and it's been an exciting journey for the last year, okay, but also bringing all these things together and ensuring that we ourselves, for example, are exposed to interest rate fluctuations or currency fluctuations that have happened, and all of this put together, and also buying patterns from our customers where they're more stringent about how they purchase, when they purchase, et cetera. So bringing all these 3 things together has been both exciting, but also, it's been work, if I may call it.
It's been quite a journey.
Yes.
We've talked a lot about the industry, what's going on in the world around us, and its impact on GRC professionals. What are your thoughts and advice to organizations and specifically GRC professionals and roles in organizations to navigate this current risk climate?
And Mike, a lot was talked about yesterday at the summit as well, and I do think that you and I have been talking about interconnected and integrated GRC for years. I feel in the last year or two, this has really accelerated. The whole world of silos where op risk and compliance and third party, they would be sitting in silos. The acceleration of this whole interconnectedness is happening with extreme pace. There's too many dependencies. We've talked about the examples of even ESG, where ESG is not just about ESG. How do you tie your third party? How do you tie your cyber risks? How you tie in your operational risks into the ESG program, and vice versa. You look at enterprise risk. Enterprise risk is completely half-baked if you don't bring in the whole element of operational risk and third party and cyber under one interconnected umbrella, because the interplay between these risks has risen quite a bit. 2 plus 2 is not 4 anymore. It's actually 10. The impact of one risk over the other. And that's why GRC professionals on one side, they have to ensure that every group that they operate in, they have a view, a ringside view of the other groups and the other data and other systems that they're operating with to ensure this interconnectedness comes through. Otherwise, failures will continue to happen. We've seen some big ones in the last year. Okay, and a lot of it is not just because one group didn't have the oversight or had lesser oversight. It is also because they were not talking to other risk teams where they could have actually figured out and engineered, more preventative behavior early on in the cycle. The second thing I'd say is that, regulators are now coming to pace with what's happening in the market. There's going to be more oversight. You're seeing this across the board, whether it's in the US, in Germany, in Switzerland, in UK and other developing nations as well, where the increased pressure of regulations is going to actually cause GRC professionals to be looking, more actively at how to both prevent, detect, and respond. So that's the second big thing. So, I would say. And last is, we talked a little bit yesterday as well about this, that the skill sets have to change. Technologists have to become more business savvy. Business people have to become more technology savvy, because that interplay is starting to happen quite intensively. And people who left, GRC professionals who don't adapt will be left behind. I was speaking to the chief auditor of one of the largest global 5 companies, who was a customer of ours. And I challenged him that, maybe AI is going to let go of all your auditors. What do you think? And he very articulately said that no, what is going to happen is we actually will need more auditors, because while a lot of the efficiency gains from automating audits will be there through AI, through both unstructured and structured information, however, we will need more seasoned auditors who understand the business to figure out and make sure that AI is not overstressing or understressing certain things, ethical patterns remain. This is just one example, right? So skill sets have to evolve, and we saw yesterday, I'm seeing chief information security officers gain a lot of business experience and becoming operational risk heads. I'm seeing on the flip side business people who are actually becoming CEOs. GRC leaders like audit or operational risk head or chief risk officers becoming CEOs, because you have to be constantly balancing, the whole risk reward equation. And the more you understand both facets of the side, both business, technology, and the risk function, okay, as an example, that evolution is going to help GRC professionals immensely.
The physicist Fridtjof Capra stated, the more we study the major problems of our time, the more we come to realize that they are interconnected. They're systemic problems, or in the world of business, systemic risks. Now, MetricStream's been talking about connected GRC. What does that mean to your customers, and how are they reacting to that message?
So, Mike, and we founded the company on, it wasn't called Connected at that time. We founded the company on the premise that all of these risk themes and risk silos had to come together to get a true view of risk and also to act and make decisions based on risk. As I said, in the last couple of years, this has accelerated even further. And for our customers, and for us, interconnected risk is about ensuring we make it easier and simpler for different parts of the organization. And I talked about whether it's operational risk, compliance, audits, third party, front line, first line of defense, even the ESG programs that are coming in. they're really tied together, okay, both for efficiency purposes, but also for a true realization of where the risk sits. Yeah. And from a technology or product perspective, we initiated this company based on a platform, and then had what we call products sitting on top of that, ensuring that the core taxonomy layer, the core interaction layer, the object layer is all systemized in a way that different groups can roll onto it as they go along. Now, what we also do is make sure that organizations have that belief, because we can have a product, we can have that belief, but if an organization or a customer does not have that belief, they'll still be siloed. So part of our initiative with customers is to ensure that we make them understand, and I'm very delighted to see many organizations now either have one executive like the Chief Risk Officer or the CIO, or forming ERCs, which is the Enterprise Risk Committees, that are starting to bring these things together. So I would say it's not just about technology, it's also about the belief and the faith and the tone from the top that this needs to come together. From a product and a innovation perspective, I talked a little bit about it, that there are three primary themes which we feel interconnected GRC needs very intensively, and that's where we are progressing and innovating on. One is to make the cloud real. It's not just about your infrastructure, but how to make sure that the whole ecosystem and the user experience is simplified, whether it's the mobile, whether it's the web, that all is part of integrated GRC. The second thing is about ensuring that it's continuous. For years, we've been living with companies having hundreds of thousands of people who are doing manual assessments and manual audits and so forth. And the world is there where it's very API driven, and the ability to actually get and ensure that not just risk data, but also transactional data can be pulled in to ensure there's a continuous monitoring of your risks and your audits and your third parties, et cetera. That's very, very important, and that's part of the whole interconnection, if I may call it. And the third thing really is about cognitive. So, the use of AI to both process structured and unstructured information, and ensure that GRC is not just reactive, it's not just post-assurance, but it's also predictive. Okay, that's the third thing, because that will allow all of the risk coming from different risk themes to be articulated and then seen, and also decisions be made more easier for the executives from that. Yeah. So I would say these three things are a core component, along with the core layer of a common taxonomy, a common relationship model, all of that, and that will bring the interconnectedness. But I will again go back that most importantly, organizations need to look at how they sponsor the concept of interconnected GRC within the organization more than anything else. Yeah. So that's what companies that we work with, where there's strong sponsorship, are fabulous. Yeah. Companies where there's no sponsorship, at some time vision is there, but it starts to break down back into the individual silos, and they don't get as much benefits. Yeah.
Let's move on to artificial intelligence. Everybody's talking about it, and there's quite a bit of benefits, but also there's a lot of potential risk as well. And so I talk about AI for GRC, how do we use cognitive technologies within GRC, but there's also AI GRC, the governance, risk, and compliance of AI itself and its use in the organization. How do you feel organizations and professionals specifically, should they be approaching artificial intelligence in its use in the organization?
Yeah, and Michael, it's probably the hottest topic, coming from Silicon Valley. I joke sometimes that 120% of the companies use AI in their pitch. Okay, and I think the important thing is two things. One, we have to absolutely recognize that AI, generative AI, and other versions of AI all are now mainstream and entering organizations with a blaze and a force. They're also entering homes, as you can see. So we are seeing definitive benefits of AI, whether it's in efficiency, whether it's in predictiveness, whether it's in terms of making lives easier. And GRC traditionally has trailed a little bit in AI, primarily because we always thought, and our customers and always thought, that we had to be near perfect. If you applied AI to regulations and you missed one because it was 80% accurate, okay, you'd get $1 billion fine. So there was a little bit of trailing in terms of the adoption of AI in GRC. But given the volume, velocity of data and some of the early benefits that organizations have seen, the first phase of adoption is really around efficiency. You can't deal with 10,000 regulations that are coming in every month and changes around that through manual intervention alone. So the first entire effort is around making sure that there's efficiency. And we have been very focused on not just talking about it, but ensuring that we have use cases that actually help customers. Okay, they help customers to realize value quickly. We launched our Aspire product yesterday, as you saw in the summit, and that allows organizations to look at their vast volumes of data and figure out very quickly where they might have redundancy in their controls and risks, where they might have orphan controls, they might have duplicative stuff that they're doing to create efficiencies fairly quickly. And as I mentioned, one of the banks we work with, they saw a 75% reduction over a 6-month period in terms of what they were testing, how they were testing, because there was duplication built over the years, as an example, right? But also, I would say that internally as a company, we are leveraging, both generative and AI for efficiencies in our coding, in our content development, in our support, which is extremely important to create the efficiencies from a financial model perspective as well. Last but not the least, what you highlighted, I do believe that there is significant amount of risk if it's not governed well, both by organizations, by consumer watchdogs, and by regulators. As you saw, it's at the level of the Prime Minister of UK, President Biden, Google, Microsoft. They're being called to actually have hearings on how they personally, as companies, are going to govern this. So I do feel that there's an emergence of the second category that you talked about, which is GRC for AI. AI for GRC. How do you leverage AI for GRC? But also GRC for AI. How do you ensure that AI is governed better? I definitively see emergence of, like, model management has been there for a long time. I see a very quick emergence of, a model management kind of capability around AI validation, around AI models, around AI governance, whether they're following the ethical data patterns, etc. There's a lot of work still to be done, but I see the emergence of a very strong kind of proposition around, GRC for AI, essentially, in organizations. And we have started to talk to a number of our customers on how to do that. It's not easy because there are different layers of how you govern. You govern the data, you have to govern the models, you have to govern essentially where the models are being created in the organization. You don't want to stifle innovation on one side, but on the other side, one wrong leak there can actually impact significantly an organization's risk posture. So, so I would say that I concur with you. I know a couple of summits ago we had this theme, GRC for AI and AI for GRC, and that's becoming truly real now, essentially.
It's the world of cognitive GRC.
Yes, it is, absolutely, yes.